everybody. So today is Tuesday, and we have a bonus episode of Family Movie Night for you today. I am going to be reviewing for UTBA the Broadway national tour of Mrs. Doubtfire tonight, and I thought it would be fun to take a look at the film before I see the Broadway musical. This movie came out in '93. That's when I was 12. Definitely a very influential time for me as far as developing my tastes and other things. And I remember really enjoying this movie and thinking it was really funny. And but it's not one I have watched. It's not like Home Alone where I watch it every year. It's kind of a thing. So it was interesting. So it was interesting to revisit it after all these years. And the director Chris Columbus, he sure loved these sort of sentimental divorce type movies. He must have had a bad divorce or something, because he had this, and then he had Stepmom, which I've done a full episode of Hallmarkies podcast on, and that thing's a tearjerker. That brings on the tears. I think it's actually really well done, but yeah, this one's definitely trying for a lighter approach. But for the first part, I have to admit, I was definitely more torn on than I thought I would be, because they really portray Sally Field's character as a stick in the mud, as being the harpy kind of the movie. And as a 43-year-old woman looking at it, I felt for her. I felt bad for her. She doesn't really have anybody in her camp. She doesn't have anybody who's listening to her, and she's trying to do everything with these kids, deal with a demanding ex, and also have this job as an interior designer. And especially it's kind of creepy in retrospect with she's trying to do this big break, this big job for the Pierce Brosnan character, and it would be generous to say he's flirty with her and not really interested in what she has to say for her professional work. Immediately wants to ask her on a date and other things like that. And that's just hard, because she really needs this client, and she's put in a very uncomfortable situation. And the movie doesn't treat it that way, because she likes this person, so it's not treated as something skeevy, but it really kind of is when you think about it. The way that Daniel treats her is just on one hand, Daniel does learn to listen to her and learn that she wasn't happy when he actually is kind of forced to listen to her as Mrs. Doubtfire. And so that's when it starts to kind of win me back. But you do feel bad that she has this thing happen to her. That he lies to her, and that he pretends to be this person, and everything. When you really think about it, it definitely has its awkward moments. But it does still, I think, work, because I do think that Robin Williams is funny enough, even though he can get grating at times when he's putting all the different voices and that kind of comedic riffing that he does. It could be a little much, but overall, he's funny enough. The kids are sweet enough, and the kind of end resolution of them figuring out a new way to work together and forgiving each other is nice. And so I think it does work in the end, and is satisfying and emotional, and where other movies about divorce have them getting back together or something else like that. In this case, they just figure out a new normal, which is nice. Overall, it does work, even if there are parts that feel a little cringe. And I am definitely way more sympathetic to Sally Field than I was in the past. That's for sure. I feel real sorry for her, what she's having to deal with. But what do you think of Mrs. Doubtfire? Is it a favorite of yours? Do you love it? One thing that was so surprising is that the beginning of this movie, Daniel is voicing a little bird that's forced to smoke a cigarette, and he won't do it because he says it's bad for kids. And then he looks up the engineers, and they're all smoking. Which, can you imagine that gag? Like, you don't even have villains smoking anymore. The Colin Farrell wanted to have the Penguin smoking a cigar in the Batman, and they wouldn't allow it anymore. So I don't know, I just thought that was wild. That it was a wild opening. But let me know what you think of Mrs. Doubtfire. Is it a favorite of yours? Do you think it holds up well, or maybe not so much? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter. And please like this video. Please subscribe to the channel. Check out all of my family movie night reviews. I would sure appreciate it. And check out the Patreon group. That's the biggest way you can support me, and it means so much. And the merch store. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye.